Hi friends, welcome to our lecture number 8 of Quality Management System, which is ISO 9001-2015. This is Amar Dinesh Singh. Let's recap what we discussed in lecture number 7. We discussed clause number 7 in detail, which was support, and its various subclauses: 7.1 resources, 7.2 competence, 7.3 awareness, 7.4 communication, 7.5 documented information. Now, what are we going to discuss in today's lecture, which is lecture number 8? We are going to touch upon the clause number 8, which is an operation, and its subclauses: 8.1 operational planning and control, 8.2 requirements for products and services, 8.3 design and development of products and services, 8.4 control of externally provided processes, products and services, 8.5 production and service provision, 8.6 release of products and services, 8.7 control of non-conforming outputs. Here comes the clause number 8, which is an operation. This operation is categorized into 7 subparts. The first one is planning from left hand side. Then it's go to the customer requirements, design, purchasing, productions, release of products, and control of non-conformance product after releasing a particular product in the market. So these all 7 categories are combined together in a word called as an operation. Subclause 8.1 Operational planning and control. The organization shall plan, implement, and control the processes needed to meet the requirement for the provision of product and services, and to implement the action determined in clause 6 by doing all these steps. A. Determining the requirements for the product and services. Establish and criteria for the processes. The acceptance of the product and services. Determining the resources needed to achieve the conformity to the product and the service requirement. Implementing the control of the process in accordance with the given criteria. Determining, maintaining, and retaining the documented information to the extent necessary to have the confidence that the processes have been carried out as per the plan, to demonstrate the conformity of the product and services to the requirements. The output of this planning shall be suitable for the organization operations. This organization shall control the plan changes and review the consequences of unintended changes, taking an action to mitigate any adverse effect as necessary. The organization ensure that the outsourced process are being controlled. Subclause 8.2, which is the requirement for the products and services. What are the requirements? It starts from the customer communication, followed by determining the requirement for the product and services, review of the requirements of the product and services, changes to the requirements. How to determine what are the requirements or what are customer expecting from a given product or the services which has been offered by a given organization. So, to get up to this requirement, we should go with the customer communication. Communication with the customer shall include providing information relating to a product and services, handling inquiry, contract or order including the changes, obtaining the customer feedback relating to a product and services including the customer complaints, handling or controlling the customer property, establishing specific requirement for contingency action when relevant. Subclause 8.2.2 Determining the requirement for the product and services. How to determine? So, the organization shall ensure that the requirement for the product and services are defined, including any applicable statutory and regulatory requirements, those considered necessary by the organization. The organization can meet the claim for the product and services it offers. 8.2.3 Review of the requirement for product and services. The organization shall conduct a review before committing to a supply the product and services to a customer. It includes 5 subpoints. Requirement specified by the customer, including the requirement for delivery activity, are met. Requirement not stated by customer but necessary for the specific or intended use when known should be met. Requirement specified by the organization. Statutory and regulatory requirement applicable to the product and services. The contract or other requirement differing from those previously expressed. Subclause 8.2.4 Changes to the requirement for the product and services. The organization shall ensure that the relevant document information is amended and that the relevant persons are made aware of the changed requirements when the requirement for the product and services are changed from time to time. Now comes the subclause 8.3, which is design and development of the product and the services. This design and so there are 5 steps. First is design and development planning, then design and development input, design and development control, design and development output, design and development changes. First ones come the design and development planning. So in order to design a particular prototype or to design a particular product, first of all we start from the planning stage. In the planning, we think in terms of the design and how we are going to develop this product in the future steps. The design path you expect to take in creating a design, the responsibility, the time skills and the resources will require the planning. We need to conclude a various parameters in consideration while making this plan, such as the duration, the design task, verification validation activity, the responsibilities and the authorities, the customer communication and documented information requirements. 8.3.3, which is design and development inputs. When we have done the planning, so based on the planning, now we are going to proceed with the input part. What criteria does design and development need to satisfy? The input such as the market research, the customer request feedback, the sales report, the functionality, the previous design issue, statutory regulatory requirement, and the consequence of failure, etc. For example, when I am going to produce a new product, this new product, in order to build a new product, there should be some kind of a market survey or the question given to a sets of the customer where we are going to take the inputs and we are going to get the view of that product which we are targeting. Those input we are going to club while designing and developing the input part. Or if a set product in the market is already been delivered to a customer, if that product is giving a certain kind of issue, that issue is going to convey via customer to the manufacturer, right? So based on those input, we are going to do the changes in our design and development of the particular product in terms of the revision number from A to B or B to C. So these are the what we call as the design and development inputs. Now, design and development controls. The elements combine the design review, verification, validations. Control might include the design objectives, the review, the verification, validation, and the corrective action relating to a design issue are been documented. 8.3.5, which is design and development output. This describes what you will do to achieve the design requirements. Design output takes the form of documented information, might include the sketches, the blueprint, the specification, etc. Once it has been output has been delivered, now how we are going to do the changes? This design and development changes are identified or required, then you must go through the whole design steps once again. Try to get the design correct the first time around by agreement or communication with customer in early stages of the design. So these are the various steps which we need to ensure. Here come the flowcharts. So towards the left hand side you can see how we are developing a certain product. For example, let's say if you see that on topmost side, need for the product and services process are identified. Once it is done, then the planning is being carried in, as per the clause 8.3.2, followed by the inputs. Then the design and development process is being carried, followed by the design and development output. Then design and development control, which is the validation. So each of these stages are been critically been reviewed by a define authority or the responsible person. Let's say based on the output getting from the design development planning, if we want to do any kind of changes, so how we are going to, if we really want to do certain kind of changes, so this will be rerouted back again from the step 1. Or whenever we say a verification, what we are verifying? We are verifying a set output with a given input. So this is called the verification. Let's say it has been verified successfully. So we are going to go with the validation step where all the activities which was there, we are going to create a documented information by carrying out the validation activity to see whether are we getting the desired or the specific attribute of a given product time to time or batch to batch. Once all this process has been successfully completed, then the design and development is going to get completed. Towards the right hand here, you can see the design and development review. First, we are going to build the user needs, then design and development inputs, then the process, the output, and the product and services ultimately deliver. From output to the input, a verification step is involved. If this has been done, then from the complete cycle, from the product service till the user need, entire steps shall be validated properly, whether the set D&D is meeting the requirements or not. 8.4 Control of provided processes, products and services. This referred to the product and services we purchase from the other organization. Okay. 3 main categories you must control include the raw material, the product services from a supplier to a customer and process provided by the contractor. Other items to consider might include the packaging, the equipment, the component, or the outsourced testing, delivery, calibration test, and the contract labor, etc. So, when we are making a particular product, so in order to make the product, we require the raw material, we require the biological raw material, we require the packaging material. So definitely, yes, we are not going to do the manufacturing of those kind of raw materials. We are going to take from some X supplier. So this X supplier also needs to be get controlled in terms of the processes, in terms of the how they are giving us the raw material. If we are following a certain kind of norms, a guideline, it's our responsibility to ensure that we are selecting those kind of supplier which falls as per our requirements. This organization shall determine and apply the criteria for the evaluation, selection, monitoring of the performance, re-evaluation of the external providers. Okay. The organization shall return the documented information of this activity and any necessary action arising from the evaluation. 8.4.2 Type and extent of the control. Using a risk-based approach category, your outsource services according to the risk and then applied to the appropriate level of checks and control. Considering the risk, does your service supplier poses a significant risk to a customer or legal entity? Based on this, you need to take a call. Let's say if I want to deliver a 2 million test to a customer Y in a given span of 10 days duration of time. So what will happen? So to meet the given deliverable time, and I require the raw material from the vendor in time. If they are not able to going to deliver before 10 days or 5 days in advance, then I will not be able to do the manufacturing. So that is a risk for me. So to mitigate those risks, we need to develop the second alternate vendor based on that quality attribute, based on that process, etc. 8.4.3 Information for the external provider. Inform your external provider what you want from them. Let's say if I want a raw material, let's say I want a BSA to make a certain kind of buffer. What is my target from the BSA? What are the components which I require? So I need to give the purchase specification from my side. Retain the documentation of this if it's not a requirement but would be hard to evidence any other way. So all this clause number 8.4, it's correlated with the purchase part, the purchase department. 8.5 Production and Service Provision. 8.5.1 Control of Production and Service Provision. Whenever we are going to do a production activity, we need to control our process to ensure that we are going to deliver a conformity product, not a non-conformity product. So, your product and services must meet both the internal and the external requirement. Ensure that you monitor and measure the production processes. Ensure you provide the correct equipment and environment for the product production. Ensure you have competently trained people for the production of the products and services. Don't forget to verify and validate the output from a production process. For example, new requirement to remove human error are being continuously seen across different organizations. This we are removing the human error by bringing an automation system, the online vision system camera, by implementing the process of lean manufacturing, which was being promoted by the Toyota. So this is one of the classic example how they are controlling their process by bringing an automation into the process with a manual based approach. 8.5.2 Identification and Refreshability. Why this clause is important? What do we really mean by identification? Identification means we are giving a certain tag to a certain object. Let's say in our case, for example, the product. We are going to give a tag in terms of the lot number, batch number, manufacturing expiry, object number, product code, etc. Or through each stages of the production activity, we are going to identify the process. Once we give a tag, doing this, it will help us in doing a traceability, or for the investigation purpose, this text is going to be playing an important role. For example, you can see a chart where the product has been delivered from the supplier to a farm, the slaughterhouse, and then returned to the customer. If there is an issue given by the customer, so customer is going to communicate to the retailer. How they are going to communicate? They are going to communicate based on the product label, which is mentioned with the code and the lot number. They are going to communicate this to the retailer. Then this retailer is going to communicate to the slaughterer, but before communicating, they are going to check their stock which is there with them. So they are going to trace out how many quantity are there or not. They are going to report to the slaughterhouse. So this is called the back traceability from the customer to the supplier. When it goes from the supplier to the customer, it is called the forward traceability. Okay. Then when it comes to the farm and to the supplier, so the supplier are going to see all the documents which was involved directly or indirectly in manufacturing that product, and they are going to assess where they went wrong, why this product is not complying or not meeting the requirement of the customer. This is called the traceability. 8.5.3 Property belonging to the customer or the external provider. So it's all about handling the property that is given to you to use, but it does not belong to you. This property is anything that is provided for you to use within or incorporate into your product and services. 8.5.4 Preservation. One should take adequate measure in order to protect and preserve the product during the internal processing and delivery to the intended destination. The preservation process must include the packaging, the storage, and other product-specific handling method, the requirements which are likely to be input or the design process. So we need to preserve our product across the different stages of the production activity. When we are storing the semi-finished component, when we are dealing with the finished component, or when the product is lying into the store department, or when this product is been carried from the manufacturer to a destination, which is the customer. So the transportation. So during the transportation, based on the product's storage condition, whether it's a 2 to 8 or -20, we need to preserve, we need to take care. So it could be in terms of the identification, during the handling, during the packaging, and during production. 8.5 Production and Service Provision. So 8.5.5 Post-Delivery Activities. When determining the extent of post-delivery activities that are required, the organization is required to consider any applicable and statutory regulatory requirements, potential unwanted consequences associated with the product and services, the nature of the product or services, or how the product or services will be used and the product or services intended for the lifetime, all customer requirements, any customer feedback. For example, statutory and regulatory requirements, the recycling or end of the life disposal and environmental may be consideration for some of the organization. 8.5.6 Control of the changes. The organization shall review and control the changes for the production or service provision to extent necessary, containing the conformity with the requirements. The organization shall retain documented information describing the result of the review of the changes, the authorizing change and unnecessary action arising from the review. 8.6 Release of product and services. So this 8.6 and 8.7 speaks about the QC activity or pertaining the QC related activity which falls under the QC department. The organization shall retain a documented information on the release of the product and services. The documented information shall include the evidence of conformity with the acceptance criteria, the traceability to the person authorizing the release. So for this, the QC is going to use the QC pass label. 8.7, the control of non-conforming output. Once we get the non-conforming output, so how we are going to do the control? So before going to the non-conforming output, you need to understand the four definitions, which is what do we mean by the conforming, what do you mean by the opportunity for the improvement, the third is the minor non-conformity, the fourth is the major non-conformity. So guys, I am not going to go to all these four in detail. You can pause the video and you can go through this in detail. You will be able to know what do we exactly mean by all this terminology. So you can pause for 2 minutes or 3 minutes before moving to the subsequent slide. 8.7, which is control of non-conforming output. The organization shall deal with the non-conforming output in one or more of the following way. They need to do the correction, segregation, containment, return or suspension of provision product and services. Third, informing to the customer. Fourth, obtaining authorization for the acceptance under concession. Conforming to the requirement shall be verified when non-conforming outputs are corrected. 8.7.2. The organization shall retain the documented information that describes the non-conformity, describe the actions taken, describe any concession obtained, identify the authority deciding the action in respect of the non-conformity. Thank you. Please follow below links to get more details.